Hello everyone, it's Sheila and welcome to another episode of PJs and Coffee Time. If you are a first-time watcher, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you to my channel and ask that you hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming back each and every time. As you all know, I do like to share a tip of the day with each one of the PJs and Coffee Time. So today I wanted to share with you all the Neutrogena individually wrapped makeup removers. I found these at Ulta the other day. I was actually in Ulta to look for one of the travel size packages, and I saw these and I thought, you know what? This might make a little bit more sense. Because the ones that are for travel size, they are in a small container, which I think they come in like 10 in the container. But because you're using them for travel, you don't usually use them all up. And so by the time you need them again, they're dried out. So I was like, you know what? This makes a little bit more sense. Even though when I look at it, the price wise, you're like, whoa, but it does make sense. So they had them at Ulta the other day for buy one, get one 50. And then I had the $3.50 off coupon. So I actually did pretty good on the price. And the best thing about them is when I got them and opened them up, I realized that they're much bigger than the ones that are in the containers. And so these are like washcloth size. So I was pretty impressed. Like I was like, this makes sense to me. So yeah, so anyway, I've been enjoying using these whenever I've taken trips. And I'll be honest with you, I've kind of sneaked and used them even here at home, which that makes them not as cost effective, I guess, because I'm like, they are a little bit more expensive than buying the ones that are in a package, but I do really like these. So as you can see, I am sipping out of a mug. This mug is a mug that my son purchased for me when he was in Colorado, and it says Estes Park, Colorado, which is a place that he visited back during the Christmas holiday. A friend of his was getting married, and it actually came with a little spoon for stirring your coffee or whatever, putting your creamer in your coffee or whatever. The same day that I got it, y'all, I was getting ready to wash it and the spoon fell out and broke. I mean, just like, oh, I was so upset. But nonetheless, I can still drink my coffee, so we're all good. So a few extra housekeeping things. If you hear a noise in the background, they are trimming trees in my yard today, and there was no way around it. If I wanted to do this video today, which I really needed to do this video today, it was like I have to do it now. So yeah, so right now I think we're at a quiet point, so hopefully it won't start up again while I'm doing this video, but if it does, I do apologize. And second of all, if you're looking at what I'm wearing today and you're thinking that it might look a little like it's old, or it might even look like it's slightly dirty, it's not. What I'm wearing today is my mother's gown. My mother passed away in 2010, and this was one of the gowns that she wore faithfully before her passing. And whenever I would go and visit, a lot of times I would ask her, because I always like to sleep in my mom's nightgowns and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, I always did. Whenever I'd go home, I wouldn't sleep in mine, I'd sleep in hers. And this was one of the ones that she would always give me to sleep in when I would go home. And I always felt like it just smelled like her. It just reminded me of her. And when she passed away, I was like, I have to at least have one of them. And so I took this one with me, and of course I've washed it, but it's old and it's been washed a few times, because when she first passed away, I wore it like a lot because it just made me feel close to my mom. And so I was washing it a lot, and but now I've kind of like stored it so that I just will have it forever, because I don't want it to fall completely apart. But today I felt it fitting to wear it because of the video that I'm doing, and also there is a button missing, and I'm going to try very hard not to show off any of my girls today. But I also did not want to replace the button because it's a button that's been missing since when my mommy used to wear it. So I don't know, I know that may sound a little bit weird, but it is what it is. And yeah, so it is a little bit discolored. It's a little bit like, probably, I don't know, probably even have a few stains on it, I don't know, but it's a very old nightgown. So anyhow, so let me go ahead and get into this video. I'm going to try very hard today to not to let my emotions get the best of me. I do very well most of the time when I talk about my parents. So every once in a while I do find myself getting a little bit emotional because they were my parents and I love them very much and I do miss them a lot. but I felt compelled to talk about them today. This is March that we're in, and my dad passed away on March 29, 2010, and my mom passed away on April 9, 2010. So some of you might know the story because I did share with you all a little bit about them on my other channel. I don't know that I've ever really given you all the full details about my parents passing on this channel, or if I've ever really given you full details. But today I really wanted to just kind of, first of all, recognize them for being awesome parents and giving me a life that I am just giving me such a wonderful life. They were so great to me. They were my heroes. Like, I love my parents so much. Okay. A little bit of a disclaimer. I have been trying to film this video and I keep getting very, very emotional. So I do apologize. This video is going to be very, very choppy. I did not realize that it would still be this hard to talk about it, but I think it's good to, I really feel like I need to share this video with you all. So I'm gonna give it one more shot. So I want to share with you all the story of what it was like dealing with losing both of my parents basically at the same time. So my dad died on March 29th and my mom passed away on April 9th, 2010. While my dad was diagnosed with diabetes a few years prior to that, and as a result, he had his lower part of his leg amputated. My dad was taken to a nursing home for recovery, and in the nursing home is where we were going to assume that this happened, but we didn't find out about it until after we had brought him home and we were preparing him to get his prosthetics, when he didn't seem to be excited about being home. In fact, he seemed very depressed. Initially, we were like, okay, that's normal, says the nurses and the doctors and the therapists that came by to see him. So we weren't too concerned. Medically speaking, there was nothing else they could find wrong with him. And then one day he passed out as my brother was trying to get him up to get him ready for breakfast. My brother called me and let me know that he'd called the paramedics and that they were taking my dad to the hospital. When they got to the hospital, they realized that my dad was bleeding from the brain, that he had possibly had a fall, and that because he was on Coumadin, which is a blood thinner, he had been bleeding from the brain and his brain had shifted. He was going to require major surgery. So at that time, he was medevaced to a hospital that was better equipped to handle people of that nature. I was living here in Texas and my family was in Virginia, so I had to make preparations at this point, or to get to Virginia to be with my family. My father was operated on the day before I got to Virginia, and we were given the news that if he comes out of his coma within 48 hours, that would be superb. 72 would really be, could be good news or it could be bad news, but ideally 24 to 48 hours is what they were hoping for. About the 24-hour mark is when I made it to the hospital. And so the doctors wanted to kind of get a reaction to my dad, because everyone had shared with the doctors how my dad and I had such a closeness, and that the doctors wanted to see if I would be the person that would be able to bring him out of that coma. So when I walked into the room, my dad obviously couldn't see me or anything, but we noticed that his movement started to really happen. They had all kinds of machines hooked up to him, and you could see the needles, the little, I don't know, I say needles, but like all the things on the machines going sporadic. They were going crazy. Things were just happening. And so I was like, you know, the doctor, I was like, what's going on? The doctor is like, you know, just keep walking closer to the bed. The closer I got, the more interaction that my father was having. You could just see that it was like he was trying so hard to wake up. And so when I said, hi, daddy, I saw that his eyes were like basically like you could just literally see his eyes, where he was just trying his best to force his eyes open. And so I was getting really excited. I was like, oh my God, daddy's gonna wake up, he's gonna wake up. And then all of a sudden he went into a seizure. The doctors went to his bedside. My mom, I remember hearing my mom scream my dad's name. I looked over, my son was crying. And I realized at that point that that wasn't a good thing. And so I knew that I had to be strong. So I asked my brother to take my son and my mom out of the room. And I stayed by my dad's side, and I just kept holding him. And I kept telling him, it's going to be okay, Daddy. It's going to be okay. Just hang in there, Daddy. Just hang in there. And pretty soon the seizures settled down, and everything kind of got normal. And, you know, the doctor kind of basically said at this point that it wasn't looking good, that because he was not responsive the way they had hoped, that the chances of him coming out of this would not be good. So basically at this point we were preparing to lose our dad. Now, from past experience in dealing with my mom, I realized at that point, I looked over at my mom and I thought about something my mom used to tell me when I was a little girl. She would always say to me that if something ever happened to my daddy, that she would just want to go with him. Like, she would never want to be on this earth without my dad. So at that point, I realized that I was not only going to lose my daddy, but I was also going to lose my mom. I didn't really say anything to anybody, but I knew at that point, because the days with them both were very numbered, hours in fact. I didn't know. So I knew that we had to make that day one of the best days of our lives. We took my mom to go get something to eat. We went to Pizza Hut, my entire family. My mom had soup because she wasn't eating very much. She was basically kind of depressed, I guess, and missing my dad. So my mom had soup, we had pizza, we sat around the table, we took pictures, we laughed, we talked. My mom was needing a new purse. We talked about going to Walmart. Walmart was my mom's favorite place to go. And whenever I would go home, we would literally go to Walmart and we would spend hours upon hours at Walmart. And so we laughed and talked about going to Walmart the next day, that we would get up the next day and I'd take her to Walmart, and then we'd go see Daddy after going to Walmart. All the while I knew that the chances of any of this happening were going to be very slim, but I wanted to have that ounce of hope. So when we got done eating, we all went back to the hospital, and Daddy was pretty much the same. And at that point I wanted to stay the night with my dad at the hospital, but I knew how my dad would feel about leaving my mom. Like, he always would say, we have to take care of your mom. Now, my mom was in a wheelchair at that point. It had been 20 years. She was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, so she was handicapped, and so she did need basically 24-hour care. She couldn't get up and go to the bathroom or anything like that by herself, so she always required care. We had a nurse that would take care of my mom during the day, but in the evenings or whenever I was home, we would take turns in taking care of my mom. So I asked my dad, I said, hey Daddy, I said, I'd love to stay with you tonight, but I know that you would probably really want me to be with Mom, and I know that you can't truly answer me, but just give me some kind of sign that what you want me to do. And I remember, it was almost I felt like a brushness of his hand on my hand, which was to me, him telling me what he wanted me to do was go be with my mom. So I kissed him and I leaned over to him, and we used to have this saying. My dad was the youngest of 12 brothers and sisters, and all of them were deceased now except for him. And some days he would be pretty sad about being alone because not having parents. His mom died when he was 5. So I think he's always felt kind of alone. But now he didn't have any brothers or sisters. So I think, for him, some days were really hard. So every day I would talk to him on my way to work. And so some days he would tell me, he'd say, baby girl, it's, we had this little saying about holding on to the limb. And some days, on the days that he didn't really feel like he wanted to be very talkative, or he was just on his sad days, he would just say, baby girl, the branches on the limb are pretty slippery right now. And I would, tell my dad to dry your hands off, Daddy, and hold a little bit tight and grip that limb a little bit tighter. This particular day, I leaned into the bed. I leaned to him on the bed and I said, Daddy, I've always asked you to hold on to the limb. This time, Daddy, I'm going to tell you to just let it go. And as I walked out of the hospital room, I knew I would never see my dad alive again. I felt it in my heart. That morning, the next morning at about 5 o'clock, we received a phone call from the hospital that my dad's heart rate was lowering, and if we wanted to see him, we needed to hurry. Within 15 minutes, they called us back, and they said Daddy had just passed. We got my mom up, and we weren't ready to tell her yet because we didn't know how to tell her. My mom, we got her into the bathroom, and I was getting my mom ready, and my mom said to me that she had heard Grandma, that she had a dream about Grandma, which was her mom, the night before. She said that Grandma was at the door telling her to come in the house. My grandmother was deceased, so I knew what that meant. We made the decision, my brother and I, to tell my mom together that Daddy had passed away. My mom never spoke after that. My mom basically started her last 9 days that day. So we knew that we were losing my mom. She basically was slipping away from us very fast that day. We called the paramedics came, they rushed her to the hospital. The doctors informed us that basically her will to live was gone and that she was dying from a broken heart. So initially they were making her very comfortable, and on that third day the doctors came to us and said her organs are going to start shutting down. She does not want to live. We need to make the decision if we wanted to resuscitate her should she start to pass. So we had to make the decision to do a DNR. My sister didn't want any part of it because she said that she couldn't be a part of making a decision like that. My brother and I sat down that night at the hospital. We literally took turns. My brother would be with my dad, with them taking care of the situation, burying my father, getting my dad's funeral together, while I would be at the hospital with my mom. Then we would rotate. He would be at the hospital with my mom, and then I would be taking care of stuff for the funeral with my dad. We literally bounced back and forth to get it all done. When the doctor said to us that we needed to make a decision of if we wanted to do a DNR or not. So we sat down that night and we kind of said to Mom, we talked with Mom a little bit. She wasn't responding. She never responded to anything from the day that my daddy died. She didn't talk. She would smile when she'd see my son, or when certain people would walk into the room, she'd kind of give them a smile, but she never spoke again. She just was just there. At that point, I told my brother, I said, Mom doesn't want to be here. We've been blessed. We've had Mom for 84 years. Daddy's gone. She will never be the same. We need to just let her go. So we did the DNR. We signed the DNR. And my mom survived for 9 days. And we lost her. Those were the hardest 9 days of my life. But at the same time, they were the most beautiful 9 days because I got to watch a love story unfold. I really got to see the true love story of my parents. And even though to this day, it hurts so much when I think of them and knowing that I don't have them. So I wanted to do this video because I felt compelled to just share my story of this video today, because I know that for people losing their loved ones, sometimes it's really, really hard. And even though I've been sitting here doing a lot of crying, I didn't really anticipate on being this emotional doing this video. But it really is a beautiful love story. Like, some of my tears are actually, you know, they're tears of happiness because my parents were so wonderful. So I didn't, oh my gracious. So I did not expect to be this emotional through this video, and I do apologize. I feel really bad, but I'm gonna hopefully be able to edit enough of this out to where it won't look crazy. But I really wanted to share this video with you all today because I know that facing the inevitable sometimes is one of the hardest things that we as people will ever have to do. Saying goodbye to a loved one, losing a loved one, it's a pain that you don't wish on anybody. But, you know, those 9 days that I spent with dealing with my father's passing, preparing for the funeral, making my mother comfortable, making decisions about my mother, then burying my mother, those days, even though they were the hardest days of my life, they were some of the most beautiful days of my life because I got to watch a true love story unfold. I got to see love at its best. And so even though I miss my parents, I miss them tremendously. And so even though I miss them so much, I'm so happy that they're together, that they're spending eternity together, and they will never be apart from each other ever again. It gives me such joy. You know, coming to realization that I was going to lose them, that day was hard. But the day that I knew in my heart would be our last day, as like our last day of having Daddy alive, where everybody would be the same. You know what I mean? Like, even though he was in a coma, he was still alive. And so there was that, you know, we all had like this hope inside of us. I always remember that day. I remember the smile on my mom's face as she looked over at my son and making comments about his earring in his ear, his tattoo on his arm, you know, just the little things that my mom would say. But it was such a beautiful day. So if anyone can take anything from this video today, because we never know what tomorrow holds. We have to live every day like it's our last. But if you have a loved one, a family member, whatever, that's ill, and you may be possibly facing the fact that you're going to lose them sooner than later, cherish the good times. Don't dwell on what's going to happen. Give them their joy. Make the joy. Smile. Share the time with them. Enjoy every moment with them. And I know it's easier said than done, but don't be saddened by the inevitable. Just enjoy what you have in the present. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video because like I said, I just didn't realize I was gonna have this harder time doing this video, and I need to go. So I want to thank you all for listening and putting up with the tears. I'm just being myself today, and I just felt the need to share. So yeah, so thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in my very next video. Bye.